Here's an exercise problem for practicing what you've learned in this module so far. The problem is compare population growth in the US and China. For this problem, you can use the population column in the countries.csv data and try comparing both absolute numbers and relative growth of populations. And if you want to try solving this problem on your own, pause the video right here. And here's an example solution. After importing pandas, pyplot, and countries.csv, select the data for the US and China with data square brackets data.country equals United States and China. Store them in variables called US and China. Then you can plot the populations of the US and China with pot.plot us.year, us.population, and the same for China. Show this graph with pot.show. It's hard to read raw data since the numbers are so large, so let's divide the populations by 1 million, or 10 to the power of 6, so we can get the numbers in millions instead. And let's add a title, a legend, X and Y labels to make this graph easier to read. This is how to compare the population growth on an absolute term, but how can we compare the population growth on a relative term? To do this, let's see how the population has grown in the US and China compared to the first year in our data. Just like in the previous example, we're going to set the first year's population to 100 and we'll compare how much it's grown since. We can do this with us.population divided by us.population.iloc0, which is the first available year's population in the US, times 100. Let's put this in a new variable called US growth, and let's do the same thing with China. Let's now plot US growth and China growth as line charts with pot.plot us.year, US growth, pot.plot China year, China growth. And let's add a title, a legend, X and Y labels as well. From this graph, you can see that the population grew in the US and China at about the same rate up until early 1960s, but after that, the population in China grew much faster than in the US, relatively speaking. This is the end of the module, and in the next module, we're going to examine scatter plots.